What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Progressive Gentlemen podcast. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Dan.
I'm Matt.
And thank you for taking the time to nerd out about music with us. This episode is brought to you by Eargasm Earplugs. Use code Gentlemen10 at checkout and take the step to protect your hearing today. We got probably our favorite episode to do of the year, album of the year episode. Love talking about all the music that's come out, and we've had quite the crazy year. Our lists were massive.
Yeah, we bit off more than we could chew, I think, honestly.
Yeah, way too much, honestly. And looking at it, this last month has been very daunting. And trying to narrow it down to 10 records and then combine our top 10 to create one massive Progressive Gentleman top 10. I think we had like four records with the same sort of weighted rating when we did that, and we had to have discussions of like, all right, well, where are we going to put these records?
No punches were thrown.
we kept it clean. But goddamn, it's been a crazy year for music. I before we sort of get started, starting off at number 10 and finishing with our number 1. I felt like we just wanted to throw out some honorable mentions. I didn't want to necessarily dive into it because this episode usually runs really long at a baseline. So, Matt, did you have any honorable mentions you wanted to throw out? Just, ones that didn't make our top 10. Maybe we're on your top 10, but didn't make our top 10, or just other albums in general that were really good that deserve mentioned here.
Yeah, I guess I know Periphery didn't make it on the list between our weighting, so definitely that one. That Tomb Mold record really surprised me. I'd heard of them, but I never listened to them. But after the interview with Cryptodira, listened to that album, I was like, holy shit, this is really good. So that one hit my radar as well, but didn't hit as high for you. I don't even think you listened to it, did you?
I honestly didn't.
No, okay.
Sorry, Mike from Cryptodira. No offense for not checking that one out yet. I definitely plan to. It was tough, man. I mean, we just did that interview not that long ago, so
yeah.
And life's been busy, but I'll definitely check it out. Maybe I'll throw a little asterisk somewhere and make an amendment to my list. But
we'll come back and edit the episode and throw it in.
But yeah, for me, I mean, Catatonia dropped a really solid record. That's one that I felt like deserves some mentioning, and then that Boy Genius record. I know it's not a prog situation. It's more on the pop side of things, but I listen to a lot of different music, and I love Phoebe Bridgers, and that record is really good. And then an EP that deserves mentioning too, and this is one that we discovered from a band interview also, Exploring Birdsong, Dancing in the Face of Danger. We don't count EPs in this, because if we did, that would be in my top 10.
Yeah, it would be in mine too, actually. That album is really good.
So definitely worth mentioning here as well, but I mean, there's too many. I mean, Veil of Maya dropped a record, there's so many records that dropped that could have been talked about here. But, we don't have time to just sit here and run down the whole list. So
yeah, we had, I think, like 40. I think you and I both had about 40 albums that we wanted to listen to, but didn't get to all of them. And
yeah, had 40, cut it to like 25, and then it just chipped away at it from there. It was tough, but which brings us to our top 10. And starting off at number 10.
Cue the ESPN music.
Solid band, Currents dropped a record called The Death We Seek. Really, really solid record. Band that I feel like is just at the forefront of metalcore, progressive metalcore, whatever you want to call it. They definitely have progressive tendencies here and there, but just one of those bands that I think is just the pinnacle of like modern metalcore.
Yeah, that album actually, when it first came out, it blew up quite a bit. I think in the metal scene, like people were talking about it like crazy, and so I had been listening to Currents before that and stuff, but not like super heavily. And then when I listened to the album, I was like, oh, I can see why people are like really, really high on this album. And then it was kind of I kind of like forgot about it for a minute, like didn't realize that it came out this year. It was like when I was doing the list again at the last couple weeks, and it was like, oh yeah, that was this year. And it was like went back and listened to it again. And it was like, oh, this is so good. They definitely are kind of one of the leaders, I think, in recent time of the progressive metalcore, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the way it ends, their record that they dropped in 2020 actually was my album of the year in 2020, even though I know it's not held in as high regard in their discography for fans, which I actually didn't know until relatively recently.
Huh, I didn't know that.
When I was like doing a little bit of digging on this record and just sort of, listening to it, I was just like, oh yeah, this record was amazing. And I went to look at like where people had that record, and a lot of people said like, yeah, it was like a step backwards. And for me, it was like, I don't know, that record stuck with me probably more than any other Currents record. So but The Death We Seek, I think, is a continuation of that. With a little bit different like exploration on vocal styles too. Like there's even some like different lower register like harsh vocals that I feel like I've not heard in their discography. Um so it was interesting. I think So Alone, I think, or Living in Tragedy, or both of those, like those two tracks, have some of that sort of vocal exploration.
Yeah,
Uh,
I guess maybe that's why I've marked So Alone as one of my favorite track. Is like when I was going through, tried to mark kind of like the standout tracks, and
yeah,
that one stood out to me as well.
but yeah, the Currents again, just year after year, whenever they're dropping records, and they're on a pretty seemingly consistent release schedule too. It seems like every 3 years they're dropping something new. So, um, but yeah, another fantastic record. Looking forward to see how they progress from here, but definitely a continuation of their last record in 2020, and that's why it kind of made our list number
Yeah,
10. Moving on to number 9,
number
uh,
9.
into the heavier category. I know that's your preference. Humanity's Last Breath with their record Ashen. Uh,
Yeah, this is another album that like it's been a long year, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it came out in August, so it's not like it was that long ago, but it was like when it came out, like holy crap, this album is really heavy, and like jammed it a lot, and then just kind of like other stuff came out, and then when we were talking about it, I realized like I hadn't added it to my list, and was like, oh, I have to go back and I need to score it and rank it. And I don't know if it was just like because I've been listening to a lot of like heavier stuff lately. I mean, I generally do skew with the heavier stuff, but um just like as of lately, like that Tomb Mold album and this one, it's just like it doesn't stop. It's just so heavy like the whole time, and it's definitely not for everybody, but it's just got those like crazy, like kind of meshuggah-y, like really chuggy, heavy riffs, and I think like for me the my favorite track was In Still, but they have a whole bunch of really good tracks on that album, like Labyrinthian, Linger, all are both really really good.
yeah, I didn't discover Humanity's Last Breath really until 2021. And whenever they dropped that Valde record, that ended up, I think that made our top 10 back in 2021. Um,
I
and
think
whatever,
yeah, or maybe it was an honorable mention, but it definitely was up there for both
yeah.
of us.
And what I like about them is it's really heavy. It's got that like eerie feel to it, super brutal instrumentals, but it's got that atmospheric sort of feel to it too, where it's like it's heavy, but it's sort of mesmerizing in a way, captivating, very like, I don't know, it sucks you in a little bit. It's not just heavy for heavy's sake. It builds a soundscape. And I that's what I think in this record, Ashen, it's definitely a continuation of that same sound. I'm a big fan. I As we've said in other episodes, I've sort of strayed away from the heavy a bit. Obviously I still love it. But my tastes have skewed a little bit, towards the middle somewhere. which is maybe why I didn't have this record as high, but it's a fantastic record.
Yeah, I do agree with like the atmospheric like kind of building with the like it's like the heavy stuff is like in the forefront and like really in your face, but like the more you listen to it, you get like the kind of like ambient tones and stuff that help kind of like build this like sort of sense of dread like while you're listening to it. Like you feel like, oh man, like something's about to go down kind of thing.
Yep.
It like paints this like picture of just sort of like chaos and this like looming presence.
Absolutely. Yeah,
That's
and
cool.
super great record. Especially for the people who like the heavier stuff out there, definitely check that record out if you haven't already. I'm sure you probably have if you're listening to this. But if you haven't, Humanity's Last Breath, Ashen, number 9 on our list.
And while you're at it, also go back and check out Valde if you
Oh
haven't.
yeah, absolutely. There's some bangers on both records, so definitely check them both. Just check out their discography.
Yeah, a little bit of homework.
Moving on to a record that I texted you randomly about the other day and was just like, this is secretly a prog rock masterpiece. And it's probably not a secret to their fans and to people who spent more time with it than I did up until recently. But Haken's Fauna coming in at number 8. And I probably would have fought for it to be a little higher. But yeah, I mean, I just genuinely feel like they just sort of casually dropped a progressive rock masterpiece on us. Haken gets lumped into that like prog rock meets prog metal sort of conversation. Because they do like, they have some prog metal tendencies, I suppose, but there's so much pop influence in this record that it's like a prog rock like opera in a way. My first listen didn't super blow me away. I wasn't like, oh my God, this is amazing. Probably mostly because I was listening to a lot of their earlier stuff, like in anticipation for a show that never happened. And then so when this dropped, I mean, it still has a lot of their like original sound feel, but I don't know. There's just a higher level of experimentation on this record that my note here is that I called it a grower, not a shower.
I think that's a good note. Like, and honestly, might have been why it didn't land as high on my list because I was similar. Like my first listen to it, I was like, there's a lot of good stuff on here, but there's some stuff I'm not like a huge fan of. And then like you texted me and I listened to it again. I was like, okay, I do like this. And I like more than I did previously. I feel like if I maybe like if we recorded this another couple weeks later and I listened to it some more, it might have grown more on my list. Because there are a lot of good tracks on there. There's just like a couple parts that I was like not a huge fan of.
Yeah,
So
a lot
that's
of
like
the
the
like
one thing that kind of keeps it from being as high on my list.
yeah, like a lot of the heavy pop inspired parts, were the really the parts that had to grow on me. Because I mean, there's a lot of catchy moments that get stuck in your head. A lot of those pop style choruses, a lot of the synthy stuff. Like the song ABCs of Me, like that song took a while for me to be into it, but like that like almost pop inspired breakdown at the end of it's real interesting. Like that grew on me pretty heavily. And I mean, Haken, they're masterclass musicians, but they're also
Oh,
masterclass
absolutely.
like storytellers. And I feel like this record, because of that, like it has like some pretty epic songs on it. Um, but again, definitely a grower, not a shower for me personally. But yeah, low key progressive rock masterpiece. Definitely.
Yeah, I really like the poppy side, like from Love Bite. Like I really like the flow of that song. It's like the lyrics are are kind of odd, I guess, but like I don't know. It's also kind of cool because it's called Fauna, and it's like I don't know if it's supposed to be like this, but it kind of reminds me of like a praying mantis because it talks about cannibalize my heart, like it's like eating and
That
stuff.
might
So
be,
like
yeah, that might be what it's. I honestly don't like. I'm not 100% sure, but for some reason, I think I remember that actually being what that song is supposed to be like illustrating.
is it?
I
I
think
totally like
so.
that's just like what I when I hear the song, that's where my head goes, is like those like insects that like they
Yeah.
mate and then like the female eats the male or whatever. And
Yeah. I'm like I don't want to like say absolutely, without like 100% knowing, but I do feel like I remember either hearing someone say that on an interview or like reading that that's the case. So I think you're spot on there. But
oh wow,
um
I'm usually way off whenever I try to interpret lyrics, so that would be wild if that's correct. But I really like that song, and I like Eyes of Ebony a lot too. I mean, there's a lot of good tracks on here, so it's honestly like harder to find things that I don't like than things that I do. So it's like this album is really good, and I think, like I said, if I had more time with it, it probably would have ranked even higher on my list.
yeah, I'm a big fan of the track Sempiternal Beings, and
That's really good too.
Nightingale's a great track. I think that was the first single that they dropped off of that record, and then we had a conversation about Beneath the White Rainbow. And there's a part on there that neither of us vibe with too much, but I think overall, aside from that part, that track is pretty great.
Yeah, it's just that like the kind of at the end part,
The like
the like
yelly like part, yeah.
yeah, I don't know what they put like a vocal effect on, and it's kind of like I'm not a fan of that.
But yeah, overall, I mean that record is really good. Probably one of my favorite Haken records. Um, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. I'm sure again, if you're listening to this, you probably have, but just to cover it all, just listen to all the records we're talking about. If you haven't already.
The full
Um,
discographies of all the bands.
yeah, just check them all out.
There will be a quiz later.
But moving on to number 7, um, another band that I feel like is really sort of taken the metalcore, modern progressive metalcore world by storm, and sort of is at the forefront along with a band like Currents. Is Invent Animate, and they dropped a record called Heavener that for a while I thought was going to be my number one record. When it first dropped, I was like, "This is good. This is fantastic record." Um, and I feel like it got a lot of attention early on, kind of like that Currents record did. I feel like those guys are on the same release schedule, by the way, because I feel like every time a Currents record drops, an Invent Animate record drops. Um,
They should just tour together too, and
they probably have, but I don't know. But I would consider them one of the most consistent bands in like the metalcore, progressive metalcore world. Um, but they are a band that kind of, while they experiment here and there, they stay true to their sound, and which has them sort of get lumped into that category of like all their songs sound the same. But
yeah,
like I don't really feel that way. I don't agree with that. I think a song like Reverie on this new record is kind of evidence of that. It kind of stands apart. It's very unique to their discography. Um, but to the people who say all their songs sound the same, it's one damn good song.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, these guys are just immensely talented. This is another fantastic record from them. If you've listened to them before, it is, sort of in that same vein. Like we said, they do sort of, they've cultivated that sound and they live in that space. But
Yeah,
they
it's not
do,
like a large departure from their previous albums, so it's like it's kind of one of those things like if you like them, this is more of what you like, and so you will probably enjoy it. If Invent Anime is not your thing, then like, maybe you won't enjoy this one, but I still think it's worth, even if you weren't a fan of the previous albums, checking out, because it did get a lot of seemingly a lot of good press. People seem to be pretty excited about it.
yeah, and they take some like, experimental risks here and there on this
Yeah, yeah,
record.
absolutely.
And so even if you didn't originally like them, I mean, you're probably not going to like most of the record if you're not a fan of their sound, but still worth giving it a shot. Yeah, I mean, it's it's heavy. It's got that, the cool like that guitar style that's really only sort of unique to them. That well, I guess Currents can and Polaris are other bands that sort of fall into that similar category, but like it's very much um what has become modern metalcore, and it's because of these guys. So it's anytime they drop a record, it's definitely worth checking out. It's definitely usually one that makes our list.
Yeah. At least it's something like if it doesn't make the list, it's at least something where it's on our list to listen to because we would anticipate it being a high contender on our
Yeah, like
on our
we've
list.
said similar things too about like like Animals as Leaders, right? Like they put out records, that it's going to be good. You
Yeah.
have to listen to it. Is it enough to put it in like a top 5? Not necessarily, but is that because the music is bad or not top 5 material? Not really. But it's you know it, you love it, but it like hasn't, it's the records that take the big risks, I think, that usually end up standing out to us more.
Yeah, like the ones
Um
that take the risk and it lands. It's like,
yeah.
okay, that worked and that was awesome. And those are, yeah, I think you and I are kind of on the same page with that of like big risk and I dug it. So you're going to the
Yeah.
top three.
Although we do have bands like Silent Planet, I'm going to throw this out there, that took a big risk and I think fell flat, at least for me personally.
Yeah, there were some really cool tracks on there, like the Dreamwalker, I think it's called.
yeah.
It sounds very like it's ripped off of like the Doom soundtrack. Like I could I could see that song being on like the next Doom game. And so like that track was really cool. But yeah, some of the like more like I do like the synthy stuff in music, but I don't know. I feel like some of the stuff where they do like this kind of like drum and bass like electronic, it kind of is like abrupt in there. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it kind of fell a little short for me too. I like stuff, but it wasn't enough to make my top 10.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So, bands that take those massive risks, you either, fly or you fall on your face. And
Yeah.
with Invent Animate, I feel like they take small enough risks that it doesn't really make them fluctuate much for me. Like they're always pretty much everything they put out. I'm a fan of, and I'll notice something and be like, oh, it's cool that they did that. A track with acoustic guitar and all clean whatever they do. Like that's
Yeah. There's
all
like
clean vocals or whatever. Yeah. So I don't know. It's more Invent Animate. I don't agree that all their songs sound the same. I believe that they've cultivated a sound and they are living in that world, and I dig it. I don't mind. I don't mind hanging out in that world. So,
yeah.
um, moving on to number 6, a band that I'm so glad they finally put another record out. It's been a while. It's been too damn long. And that's Earthside. Let the Truth Speak. Matt, I know you're a huge fan of this record. I think at one point you said they might have been your number 1.
Well, so I was like whenever I was sitting down to like actually do the rankings and stuff and I was like I've been listening to this album a lot lately and I was like had this moment of like is this going to be like I was kind of like is this going to be my top album? I don't know if I can put it at top because of some of the other albums that I've listened to and I don't want to give anything away. But just like some of the other albums were like, no, I don't think I can make it my top album. But it it's just like so consistently good the whole way through. And I think like we were just talking about like with like risks and stuff. Not that anything was like risky necessarily, but like they do a lot on the album. Like there's a lot of different kinds of sounds and like they've got some like cool like orchestral parts and then they've got like heavy chuggier parts and like cool little like riffs in there and some like ambient stuff. It's like I don't know, it's just really cool and like the vocal features they have are so good in
Yeah, for
all of them.
sure. Song with Daniel Tompkins, Let the Truth Speak, which is the title track. I mean, that's fantastic. They bring in AJ Channer from Fire from the Gods,
That song's really cool.
um, which, yeah, Fire from the Gods is a fantastic band as well. If you've not checked them out, definitely do that. We've talked about them a few times on the podcast, but yeah, and then I think your favorite track is what We Who Lament.
Yeah, that I don't know pronunciation's probably
Katura?
butchering Katura. Yeah. Um that song is just so good. Like the vocals are just they're really, really good. And then they just kind of comes in at the end where like it kind of fades out, but then like they bring in this cool like bass like chug towards the end that is like kind of like comes out of nowhere, and the song just gets like heavy, which you don't really expect. And there's something about the flow of that song that I love. Um, it's funny though, because like I tried to look up Katura, and I guess there's like a singer from Mali or something like that, and it was like I listened to the first track thinking it was that artist. I'm like, I don't think this is it. And so I was like trying to Google it and I did find the band. I forget what the name is. Let's see if I find. Oh, it's the Heavy Medicine Band is Katura's like actual band. So have yet to, I searched it and added to my Spotify thing to check it out later because I really dig the vocals. So I have to check it out. But yeah, that's my favorite track. But like you said, the Daniel Tompkins one is fantastic. Like honestly, none of the vocal features are bad.
And that was always what I loved about that first Earthside record, A Dream in Static, is just like their ability to feature these incredible vocalists or just artists in general, orchestras. Like they had the Moscow Studio Symphony Orchestra in that first record, and then the second record, I think they also had other, sandbox percussion and other orchestral features. And then the first record they had LeJean Witherspoon from shit. Why am I blanking on his band name? Shit. Seven Dust. Jesus, I was like, it's a super popular band. If I don't figure this out, and Daniel Tompkins had a feature on that record too. And then they bring him back for this new record, and then they bring in AJ Channer, which is awesome. And it's just cool to see. Whenever they announced this record, the first thing that I had was like, I can't wait to see what the features are. And the band themselves are masterclass musicians. I mean, we say that a lot, but that sort of comes with the territory in the genre and just in this world. That
they're all virtuosos.
This music world that we sort of operate in. So, but that's sort of their shtick, is like their features and just the different things that they do. Every song is almost like an isolated sort of composition, sort of its own world, whatever. And it's just really cool to sort of get a collection of pieces that are just unique and interesting, and then have all these awesome features. The last track has Bard from the drummer from Leprous. It's just really cool. So yeah, I'm really pumped that these guys, I mean, it took them long enough. I think that first record came out in like 2015, 16, 15.
Yeah, 2015.
So
spot on.
That's it's a long time to wait for a new record. For a while there, I thought maybe they were just done. So,
well, I have to say it was well worth the wait. And honestly, like I had never heard of them until like we started doing the podcast. So you had told me to check them out, and
oh yeah,
I'm glad that you did because it's fantastic.
The amount of minutes, hours, whatever you want to chalk it up to, that I've spent listening to Mob Mentality by Earthside, and I have that record on. I have that first record on vinyl and spin it all the time. It's a great record. And this one just sort of follows suit. Another great record, and that's why it lands on our top 10 list at number 6. Number 5. Moving on, super smooth transition there. Did you like that? Moving on to number 5. This is a band that we discovered based almost solely on their artwork. Like I don't even remember the name of that record, but I'm gonna pull it up real quick. I just remember it had like this cool clock.
Yeah, I think it was actually, we were just like listening to music, and I
Retrospect is the name of the album, and it's not even their first album. But yeah, that album artwork, we were just like, yeah, it's like a clock, like a hand holding a clock in the middle of like a lake or an ocean. And there's a lighthouse in the background. It's just like this looks like it's up our alley.
Yeah.
and then you listen to the music and it's like, holy shit, is this good?
This is
So
definitely
anyways,
up our alley. Yeah.
if the description of the cover art of the first album name didn't give it away, the band is Aviations, and the record is Luminaria. That is the 2023 release. That's the record that actually made our list. We were just talking about Retrospect, which is their not even their first record, their second record. But at least I think it's their second record. Shit, I don't know. It might be their third. It might be that's the instrumental version. So yeah, it's just that was their second record. So this is their third record, Luminaria. This band to me is like a breath of fresh air in the genre. Like they don't super sound like everyone else. They sort of do their own thing. And like they have these like bright, cozy feeling tones, like warm feeling, like their music feels warm, but then it gets heavy at times. Heavy use of keys throughout the record too. A lot of keyboard, piano stuff.
I love the piano in Legend. There's that like spot where it just comes to this like really like chill, beautiful piano, and it just kind of comes out of nowhere. You're like, oh wow, this is really cool.
Like the only like instrumentally, like if you want to talk guitar, guitar sound, guitar tone, the only band I could think of to compare them to would be like Intervals. Like it gives me that same sort of bright, like happy vibe that Intervals guitar tone gives me.
Yeah, it's like somehow clean, very, very clean, pretty sounds, but then also can be like real, like chuggy at the same time.
Yeah, and like then at the same time, like musically, they give me like modern contortionist vibes. Meet like a band like Good Tiger, even, just with vocals that are palatable to me. Just they're very unique. I'm super glad we discovered them because they've quickly become sort of one of my favorite bands in the genre.
I was actually listening to that album again, like right before we started recording, while like I was waiting for you to get on. I was like going through it, and I was like singing along to it, and I was like, Dan's gonna join in to the channel, and he's just gonna hear me like singing along.
Yeah, honestly, part of me, I juggled where I had them on my personal list. I think they fell, like they landed fifth on my list. So and they're fifth on this list too, huh? Yeah, so they're fifth on our list, and they were fifth on my list. That's pretty.
That
cool.
Just worked out.
But like I juggled having them even higher, just because that's how much how unique and how impressed I was with this record. I feel like they're not like well known enough either. Like I don't think they get their flowers like for how good they really are. Or maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they just weren't well known to us until we saw the cool album artwork.
On Spotify, they have 21,000 monthly listeners. So like, not unknown, but not like they're not like the tier with like Pliny and like Intervals and stuff.
I feel like they turned on. They probably turned on that marketing engine. Like, and that's like around the time we discovered them. I feel like they probably were like trying to be discovered, like targeting people like us, and maybe that cranked that up, because I feel like when we first found them before this record dropped, like it was way lower. But regardless, this record's incredible. It should be on a lot more people's lists. If you guys have not listened to Luminaria by Aviations, and honestly any of their stuff, definitely go check them out. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on that record?
I think just like kind of a few of the standout tracks for me. It was like Safe House, which I think was one of the singles. Might have even been the first single they put out.
Yeah, I think it was. There's a lo-fi version of that out there too.
That's it's interesting. Cool. I don't know if you like the lo-fi stuff. I listen to it a lot when I'm like working on homework, because it's like good background stuff. And so when I saw that they put this out, I was like, oh man, this is like perfect for me, because I love this album and I love the lo-fi music. So I'm like, this is perfect, like study music.
Nice.
So I was actually just going to mention that it's like, in addition to the album, there's a couple lo-fi tracks. Lo-fi
stuff. Yeah. I'm a big fan of the song Legend. I think that song's probably one of my favorite tracks off the record. And then Coma.
Yeah, Coma. That Como is my favorite track, followed by probably Safe House and Legend are probably like close seconds.
Nice.
That piano in Legend,
It's
so
real
good.
cool. Yeah. And that's like, not to bring them back up again, but Exploring Bird Sound, they do like they're solely piano based. I mean, it's a piano, a bass, and drum kit. That's it. Um, and so like I've really sort of started gravitating towards like keys apparently now. Like I don't know what's happening to me. But I really, really dig this record. Definitely check it out. Um,
You're gonna have to
but
sell all
let's
your guitars and.
I got a keyboard. I got one.
I know, but you're just gonna get rid of
I
your
need
guitar
more.
collection and start collecting keyboards instead.
I need to. I need to. I need to learn how to freaking play one first. I suck at it, dude. I'm so bad. I tried learning the Interstellar like theme song the other day.
Oh
That
yeah.
was a disaster, bro. It was bad. It doesn't even look hard to play, and I just I don't know. It doesn't work for me. I just they don't speak to me. The keyboard just doesn't work for me.
You need a cooler one. You need like an RGB keyboard or something.
Oh man, but yeah, shout out Interstellar, by the way, one of the greatest movies ever made. Transitioning from Aviations, which fell at number 5, to our number 4 record, back to the heavy world, the Zenith Passage. Data, how the fuck do you
I
pronounce that,
think it's
Matt?
Data Elysium.
That's how I would pronounce it, but in my brain, I was like, that's not going to be good. Data Elysium.
They did a lot of that, like combined two words
Yeah.
to in on the album, which I think is cool. It kind of reminded me, like the naming convention reminded me of that Norma Jean one with like Murderotica and Bayo Network.
Oh yeah.
Is like kind of that sort of naming convention. There's something about that that I think is like funny and or cool.
But yeah, Zenith Passage, Data Elysium. Heavy as shit. Probably the heaviest record to make both of our lists and just this final list. I mean, it's heavy, but it's sort of like strangely enough, like even for people who don't super like heavy music, there's something that just kind of I don't know, like captivates you for some reason. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like you definitely spent more time with this record than I did, but I would think like most years, especially recently, like this wouldn't be a record that would usually make my list. Um,
Yeah, I honestly was surprised like when we like did the weighting and compared our lists. I was surprised. I wasn't surprised that you had it on your list, but I was surprised that it was so high on your list too. I knew that you liked it because I was like, dude, it's so good. You have to listen to it. But I was surprised and also happy to see that it would landed so high so we didn't have to like I didn't have to argue to get it higher on our list.
yeah, I mean, one of my favorite bands in that space is like Fallujah, and they remind me a little bit of Fallujah meets like the Faceless, um, like just heavy, fast, tech deathy stuff that like again I've sort of started to work my way away from, but every once in a while there's a record that sort of like drags me back by my ankles, um, and I feel like this is one of those records. Um, Kind of like how Humanity's Last Breath, I wouldn't consider them as tech deathy. They're more sort of uh like groove death metal. That's not a great description, but like they're not as fast paced as Zenith Passage. So yeah, I don't know. This was definitely a surprise to myself as well that this made it as high on my list. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I like the Divinertia. Like I don't know if you want to call it a suite because it's just one and two, but they are back to back and they're two tracks. But those are really cool tracks. And then Synaptic Deprivation is also just the names are just very like very metal. Like um, it's just cool. Like all the artwork on the album is cool too. It's like the creation of Adam and Eve, but with like a robot hand. It
yeah,
like
the
plays
artwork
into
is
that
pretty
whole
sweet.
like sci-fi kind of like AI taking over kind of thing. Um, which I'm big into sci-fi stuff, so it's like the theming of the album, the artwork, the music, it's all really cool. Definitely
Yeah,
worth
and
checking out if you've never heard of these guys.
just musically too, it's just like, again, masterclass musicians, but it's like when you're playing that technical, that heavy, that fast paced, and it's not just guitars. The bass grooves, like some of the percussive bass stuff is just insane. Um Obviously you have to have an insane drummer to be, in a band like this. So like insane drumming. It's just one of those things where you just like sit back and just you're sort of in awe about what you're like hearing. Like it's that impressive. I mean, there's like synths in there too, uh, keys to some degree in there too, and it's just the fact that it's all layered together, blended together, still composed well, played so tightly, and like I don't know, it's insane. What
Yeah,
they
it is
what they
really insane.
accomplish is insane. Um, so definitely check them out if you haven't. Um, yeah, just
Yeah, I
it's
would
it's
say
hard it's hard to like put them in a box because like I say like Fallujah or the Faceless, but not really. Like I mean,
yeah.
Fallujah is probably the closest I can get.
They're kind of like they're in this like weird area that's sort of like between the Faceless and like Archspire.
Yeah,
Like Archspire is like turbo fast. Like even the vocals are like insanely fast. That like no human can comprehend the lyrics without
right.
reading them. But like Zenith Passage is like sort of somewhere in the middle, kind of doing their own thing. But yeah, it's hard to like pinpoint exactly their sound, but it sounds
Yeah,
good.
yeah. It's just a massive, massive sound, massive record.
I think the basis is
Heavy as
actually
shit.
this like you mentioned earlier about like the speed that he plays and stuff.
Yeah,
Is like the bassist is one of the things, and maybe it's because I've been trying to learn bass, so I'm like have more of an ear for it. But it was kind of like one of the things that caught my ear the most when listening to this album was like, damn, that bassist is so fast.
yeah. It's nuts. I wish like I wish I could sort of I wish I had more like music like theory background to be able to like articulate better like what the fuck's going on there because it's insane. Um,
Yeah,
but
it's
yeah, massive record, high on both of our lists and worth checking out, especially if you like heavy, fast, crazy, fucking technical shit. So Zenith Passage, Data Lyceum, incredible record, number 4 on our list. Moving on to number 3, um, a surprisingly heavy fucking record, right? Like
yeah,
this was
absolutely.
a record that we didn't expect to sound the way that it sounds. Because this band has been releasing like Polyphia-esque sort of like borderline pop meets, you know, shreddy guitar. I don't even know what the fuck you want to call it. Pop prog. They've been toying with that shit for years. And then they come out and drop this record called And Everything in Between. The band is Unprocessed. That like, where the fuck did that come? Who hurt you? Like, what happened here? Like, it was insane. I did not like the opening track. Hell, just
Yeah.
you're in hell. Like, this is crazy. Like, where did he like? And they released a single called Thrash where he does this weird, crazy fucking raptor thumping fucking thing that I don't know what's going on.
I want to
And
coin
like,
it the thug. It's the thumping chug.
I like it. The thug. He does this thug. Um,
He's
and
thugging.
you're just sitting there like, I mean, that's not, it doesn't sound technical or crazy or whatever. I mean, and it just you're just sitting there like, what is happening here? Like,
Yeah,
and
the speed at which he does it and it's like the technique that's required for it is just insane. And yeah, like you said, this album is like it's really heavy and it's not even just like one song.
it's like almost the whole record. Like,
Yeah,
there's maybe like one or two songs where you get a break from the heaviness. Like, that's what's crazy. And
yeah.
like Manuel Fernandez is like one of my favorite guitarists right now. Like, he has been since before this, and to bring back Interstellar, he does this amazing fucking tapping cover of that song on a guitar. That's just the most beautiful thing you'll ever hear in your life. So definitely go check that out. Um, but like this is a whole different level. Like this is not what I expected. I mean, he's very much in the vein of like a Tim Henson, like, you know, like he often probably gets compared to Tim. I think he's a better guitarist than Tim. Sorry, Tim. But like this was like a whole different. I mean, they've had some heavy stuff before, but never from start to finish heavy. And uh yeah, I mean, oh, it's speaking of Tim, he does have there is a song with where Tim and Scott from Polyphia are both on a track, Die on the Cross of the Martyr, which is one of my favorite tracks on the record. I actually like Scott's solo better than Tim's on that song. I think it just fits the song better. But Tim's, not to discount Tim because he's a freak. He's so good at guitar.
Yeah.
I would cut my toes off for half of his guitar ability.
Wow, you heard it here.
If someone can find where I can make that transaction, just let me know. But no, I mean, it's just insane how. Yeah, I mean, I guess we're just repeating ourselves at this point. But fuck.
And I think, yeah, I think too, like this is what we were talking about earlier, like a band that takes risks and they paid off in a big way, and it ended up in our top 3. Like they haven't done music this heavy, and they do it for the full album. So they like went all in. They're like, we're putting all our eggs in this basket. Like we're making a really heavy album, and you guys hopefully will like it. If not, well, then you're not going to like this album very much. And
yeah, because like,
man,
I mean,
it's good.
This is definitely like the biggest departure from quote unquote their sound, right? But like you said, a risk that definitely paid off. And I don't know if that's just because like, you know, the level of contrast of like where they were before and like where they are now. But like this this record to me has some of the heaviest moments of 2023. Like I don't know if that's just like, again, because the contrast of like how, you know, the stuff they were making before and then like this record being as unexpectedly heavy as it was. But there are moments on this record where I'm like, this is heavier than most of the things on my list. Like,
yeah.
I mean, granted, then you listen to Zenith Passage and you get brought back to reality. But like, I don't know, man. It's wild.
Yeah, it's like it's heavier in like a different way, and I think it is, like you said, probably because we're comparing it to their previous stuff. So it's like, oh, you went from like kind of almost in that like camp of like you could call them a prog rock band for some of their songs. I mean, I think most people would probably put them in the prog metal category, but you could make an easy argument for being prog rock. And then this one is like, this is for sure prog metal. Like
if you played a song like Hell for someone who's say no one ever listened to, you know, I've never listened to Unprocessed. You play them a song like Hell, and then you play them a song like Real.
Yeah.
And it's like, this isn't the same band.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way. You're definitely trying to pull one over on me.
Yeah, like it's just like even songs like Dead Rose, like songs that were like huge off of Gold, which literally dropped last year.
Yeah, and actually it was in our top.
Dropped last year.
Yeah.
Like there are a couple heavy songs on there, like The Longing or Orange Grove. I think those two have like some heavy moments, but like there's so many songs on that. Rain, like no, they're just not where you play a song like Rain or a song like Real, and then you play a song like Hell or a song like Thrash or a song like Die on the Cross of the Martyr, like anything on this record. Like it's wild, the contrast. I mean, I love it. I think it's super cool that they went that route.
Yeah, and when it shows like they can do both.
Yeah.
So like it kind of makes you wonder, like, obviously this album just came out, but makes you think, what is their next album going to be like?
Well, I mean, they're on an every year cadence now, right? So we'll have to see what next year's record brings.
Yeah, we expect it now, guys. You set the bar, so don't let us down.
And it's interesting because like their old sound, like I know people who were like they didn't like them because they were too soft vocally or even instrumentally. They were just didn't dig like sort of that Polyphia type sound. Who then heard this record and were like, oh shit, like yeah, like I don't know where. And this isn't to like throw him out there, but like Jake, I know didn't like Unprocessed because of the vocals before this.
Oh really?
Yeah, I didn't want to throw him fully under the bus.
Gotcha.
But you know which Jake I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And and like apparently, like from what I've seen, loves this record. So it's like for anybody who's listened to Unprocessed before, who were like, just didn't vibe with the vocal, didn't vibe with that sort of pop or like pop prog sort of polyphia style stuff. Give them another chance.
Yeah, definitely.
Because this record is massive and their biggest departure from their sound, and I think it paid off. But moving on to, we're into the top two now, so we're going into number two, and we had a back and forth about the top two. You know how we said there were four bands that we sort of like had to figure out somewhere in the middle. We also, one of us had one of these bands as their number one, and then the other had the other band as number one. So we had a little back and forth. And
still no punches were thrown.
Yeah, still no punches were thrown. But number two, one of the most sort of polarizing releases. But if you don't like this record, I don't like you. Sleep Token, Take Me Back to Eden. They get a lot of hate. They get a lot of hate, man, and I don't like. I get it. People don't like the shtick. People don't like the like play dress up shit. Like, and then people don't like pop shit in their metal. Like, I understand that there are a lot of gatekeepers out there. There are a lot of elitists out there.
Yeah,
we are not them. Unless you're telling me that you love Poppy, in which case you suck.
Man,
but
you're drawing all sorts of lines in the sand right now.
Well, if you like Poppy, I don't like you either. So no, I'm just kidding. That's fine. I get that there's like a weird thing with that, and females and whatever. Females in metal, and people are just like, she likes us. But I'm going too far. Sleep Token, Take Me Back to Eden. Incredible record. Some of the catchiest songs I've ever heard, let alone just 2023. Like, literally that part of the Summoning, that like funky, groovy breakdown part, like had us searching Reddit boards for things that sounded like that. I mean, how many bands, how many releases, how many tracks in the last like 5 years had us doing dives like that? Like, not many. If any.
It's like, I need more.
So like, I mean, it's tough to sort of, like, regardless of the stigma that seems to follow them within the scene, it's hard to deny like their songwriting brilliance.
And their drummer is like
incredible.
He has to be.
I want to know
like
who he
one
is.
of the best drummers. Yeah, like
He has to.
I don't know who he is, but like he turns like, and I know people say like, oh, their music's actually really boring if you like look at it and stuff, but. And you could, maybe say that, like, sure, this part has a boring guitar riff, but when they have, like, a more simplistic guitar riff, they throw in this, like, crazy drumming or, like, a cool bass riff over top, and they kind of let each member of the band have their kind of own, like, moment to shine in each of the songs. Like, the Summoning has the bass riff, so it's kind of like, okay, this is the bassist's song to shine, and stuff. I mean, obviously Vessel gets more of the limelight being the vocalist, and he sings on all of the tracks, but I feel like everyone kind of gets their moment in this album. And I mean, but just like the drummer, he can turn what would be like just kind of this riff, but then he just spices it up, and it's like, whew.
Yeah, it's like when one part, whether it's guitar or vocal or whatever, is like sort of, unincredible, is lacking. It seems like whatever that it's because they're not in the spotlight right now. The drums is taken away, and it's like, all right, well, the drum's just a regular groove, but now like the bass is doing some shit crazy, or or now there's a crazy vocal like, it's just, like you said, it's like everyone has their chance to shine. I feel like they really intricately blend sort of heavy progressive pop styles into this one cohesive, massive, collected work, and it's unique to the genre. It's addictive. I've spent way too much time listening to this record. I feel like a lot of people have.
My Spotify was my top 5 songs were all songs from this album.
My top 5 songs were also all songs from this album except for one, and that other song was a Phoebe Bridgers song. So my top 5 was very poppy, I suppose, this year.
Yeah, I think the people that don't like this album, I think they're listening to it the wrong way. Like,
or they just feel embarrassed that they like it.
They're afraid to admit the love they have.
Like they had they listened to Zenith Passage and Humanity's Last Breath and all these heavy bands, and then they found this, they were bopping their head to the Summoning and like felt ashamed. And so
I think
they take it out on everybody who actually is willing to say that this album is incredible.
Yeah, I think like the comments that like a song is boring or whatever, or that like a part is boring or something, I feel like they might be people that like they either have a vested interest in a specific instrument, like maybe they're a guitarist, so they're really listening to the guitar and not listening to the song as a whole, and not sort of admiring like, oh, this bass riff is really cool, or man, the drummer is really laying down some cool beats and stuff. If I feel like people like singularly listening to one of the instruments throughout the course of the album, then like, yeah, you might have that viewpoint that, oh, this album is kind of boring. But it's like you got to listen to the whole picture.
I mean, if you're looking for shredding guitar, you're not going to find it here. You know what I mean? It's like the guitar is almost it's all rhythm. Like the guitar is an extension of the rhythm section. It's a fucking tuned down 8-string guitar. You're not getting shreddy shit. The rhythm section in this band, the drummer is, the guitars you could say are unremarkable, but like the bass and the drums are incredible. And so the guitar isn't what's meant to stand out in this band or this record, but this band as a whole. You're not going to get your shreddy moments.
Which I think that might be why they stand out to me so much, because they do that differently. Like a lot of times in metal, like especially progressive metal, a lot of times it becomes like,
Shred
that
fest.
Yeah, it's like that, just shredding for shred's sake and stuff. And like that stuff is cool, but
yeah, there's a lot of that on this list for sure. But this isn't what Sleep Token does.
Yeah, and it's cool that like they do something different and they do it really well. And I understand like people think the whole like shtick of like being anonymous and stuff is like lame or whatever.
Well, we know who the singer is, but we're not going to say it, because anytime I talk about it anywhere, I feel like people shut it down immediately. So we won't say it here. If you want to know, message us, we'll tell you. But
we know
it's just the singer. I don't know anybody else in the band, but I know who the singer is.
Yeah, I would really want
to
find
know
out
who the drummer is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's freaking incredible. Like I wouldn't want, if I was him, I would be pissed that I'm anonymous.
Yeah, guys, can we take the masks off now?
Like I feel like people want to know who I am, but they want to know. But
so humble.
But no, I mean,
I honestly don't know how they've been able to like keep it as like anonymous. Then like
unless
there hasn't
like
been
literally
like,
the drummers, like the drummer, the bassist, like literally aren't in anything else, which that would be crazy. How the fuck? Because if that drummer, I mean, unless just everyone around him was awful in his last band or something. I want to find theories on who he is, because he's a freaking monster.
Tune into the next episode where Dan and I have
where we just
gone down
unmask all of them.
We're like tinfoil hats, like we figured out the conspiracy.
His Sleep Token is actually 5-fingered. No, I'm just kidding. So
don't you ever say
that. Shit. No, that record. Damn. Yeah,
it's so good.
And every song, man. There's a couple songs that are forgettable, I suppose. The
only one for me is the "Do You Wish That You Loved Me." Is the one that's like, and it's not horrible. It's just like, as far as like all the tracks go, it's like the weakest one.
Yeah, and I could do without like Aqua Regia as well.
Oh, I actually really like Aqua Regia.
It's not that it's bad. It's just, I don't know. For me, and Are You Really Okay? That's another one I could do without. But like, The Summoning is like one of the greatest songs ever written. I don't care what anyone says. Take Me Back to Eden, incredible song. I like Euclid because they bring back stuff from Sundowning, which I think is really cool.
I always appreciate when bands do this sort of like Easter egg, like throwback kind of things that they sneak into songs.
But yeah, I mean, Chokehold, great song. Vor is probably like their heaviest song.
Yeah, it's like that's like a black metal song almost.
Yeah, like the vocal style is very interesting there. I really dig the Apparition.
Ascensionism is good.
Ascensionism is good. It's funny because like I've heard them referred to as Spicy Breaking Benjamin before.
Yeah.
And like songs like The Apparition, I get it hardcore. Like them, like that reference is almost spot on. Like
I feel like Are You Really
Benjamin.
Okay is also seems it like it fits.
See, to me that's not spicy. To me, like Are You Really Okay is like probably could be a Breaking Benjamin song.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I guess, but I was saying like I meant that it gives me the Breaking Benjamin.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Vibes like it kind of falls in with like Rain, from We Are Not Alone.
Yeah. Which, I mean, if you don't like Breaking Benjamin at least a little bit, or didn't like Breaking Benjamin, like why are you here? You know what I mean? Like I feel like that was a gateway band for so many people into like heavier stuff. So I feel like some people can at least appreciate that.
I think that now it's kind of like they're becoming like the modern day Creed, it feels like, where people like
Dude, Creed has some bangers though.
I know. I mean, I'm not shitting on Creed, but
I almost put a Creed song in. I even had it typed out. We do our Jams of the Week playlist every week.
Really?
Oh, I swear to God, dude. I might do it. I might do it for Mondays. I think I'm going to. Yeah, I almost put a Creed song because like people don't remember like anytime people think Creed, they think "Can You Take Me High," but like that's not like. That's a good song, and actually, there's like heavy songs on that record though.
Yeah,
like on Human Clay, which is where that's the record that song's on. Like, is it Say I? I think it's called Say I. There's some riffs, like heavy shit. Like you would like if you would hear it until you hear the voice. I mean, at some point, because like it's got a very distinct voice.
So Creed, album of the year.
Did they drop one?
No, I don't think so.
I was like, did they drop one? Let's talk about it.
Dan's like, maybe
they're coming back. I saw
they
TikToks,
are doing
bro.
They're doing a tour.
Let's go. We're going.
Which
we're
probably means that they will put out an
album.
album.
Heaviest album of the year coming out 2024. Fucking Creed.
Could you imagine if next year we're having an album of the year discussion where Creed is on it? What a time! What a time to be alive.
If they drop a record, I'm at least putting it in honorable mentions, even if it's shit, just so that it's in next year's episode. Oh man,
that's awesome.
Anyway, Sleep Token, Take Me Back to Eden, great record.
What a tangent we just had.
Almost as good as Human Clay by Creed. Shit. Moving on to number 1.
The moment you've all been waiting for.
Or it could have been Sleep Token. It could have been Sleep Token, but instead Tesseract decided to drop a record called War of Being that was a return to that one meets Altered State type sound that I just freaking love about Tesseract. Altered State, if you've ever, if you listen to the podcast where we're talking about Tesseract, you would know how high and how highly I hold that record, Altered State. That's like one of my favorite, right? That might be my favorite record of all time.
It's deservedly so. It's fantastic.
So anything that I can say, oh, this sounds kind of like, parts of this has me thinking about Altered State, like it's going to get put high on my list. I mean, this is the Tesseract sound that I've wanted for a while. Like I said, blend of those first 2 records, heavy, gets haunting at times. Daniel Tompkins, probably, this is a bold statement, I'm going to say it anyways. It's probably Daniel Tompkins' best vocal performance of his career, and that's across all projects, whether it's White Moth, Black Butterfly, or any of the side stuff he's done. He was at Sky Harbor for a little while. That record is really good, but I still think this is his, like, he explores a lot of different styles a little bit here. And I just think it's just spot on. I mean,
when you mentioned the different vocal styles too, like and he does it in parts where he transitions between the different styles like seamlessly, and like it's a very different change. So to like have be able to like make those sounds and like change from these like high pitched clean vocals to that like raspy sort of like scream, and like kind of do in between stuff, like he lands it flawlessly, and like it's that's not an easy task. And so just even from just like technique alone is nuts.
Yeah, and
Like his vocals are like he is the Tim Henson of vocalists.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean,
Just like the way he can like pull that stuff off, because like I know he doesn't do a lot of like screaming and stuff, but like he does it well. And when he pulls it out in this album, and then like his clean vocals obviously are amazing. And
he
just
does he does a lot of features too, which Tim Henson also does.
yes, there you go.
Bring it around to that too, but I mean, this record also has some of the heaviest moments, I feel like, of any Tesseract record. Um, songs like, I mean, the title track has some heavy moments. Natural Disaster starts, I mean, that's the opening track of the record, and it starts off with, him just yelling at you. So, uh, I mean, yeah, it's definitely probably their heaviest record. Um, but still has those like beautiful moments. I mean, War of Being, sort of the title track, and definitely the longest track of the record. Um, Sort of takes you on a ride and has like a really beautiful sort of clean ending to it too. But there's like heavy moments mixed in, and um, yeah, I mean, it's from start to finish really a flawless record. It's incredible. There's not really any tracks that I skip on it, which anymore that's a lot to say. Uh, I did kind of give the edge to Sleep Token on my list, but there are a couple songs on that Sleep Token record I would skip, and there aren't really any on this record. So I think that does sort of give it merit for where it's at.
Yeah, I think for me, like even I think I might have said it on one of the previous episodes where uh I wasn't big on Tender on
Yeah.
Tesseract's album, but like listening to it again, I mean
It
it's
was a grower,
probably
not a shower.
yeah. And that track's still probably my least favorite on the album. But I went from like I don't really like it to like it's pretty good. It's it's not my favorite track, but like it's not like a I'm gonna skip this. Like I can listen through the whole album, like you said, whereas I probably would skip Do You Wish That You Love Me on Sleep Tokens
Right.
album. Like I'll listen to it every once in a while, but you know, once or twice of that track is enough for me. Whereas like on here, like you said, it's just kind of front to back. This album is really good.
And I was just really happy that we got a Tesseract release of this caliber too. I mean, it's been a long time coming. I wasn't a huge fan. Well, not that's not fair to say, because there are some. I loved Sonder. Like, that record was really good. It was just so short, 36 minutes, and like so like getting a record that's an hour long and it's just back to back bangers, and it's sort of a return to that like one meets Altered State sound. Like, I was just pumped. Like, I was just like, finally. Like,
Yeah.
um, and for
I
it to
also
be as heavy as it was just sort of like an added bonus. So
yeah. It's also really cool that they did like the video game like tie-in with
yeah.
the album. I haven't played it, but I keep seeing stuff like the
Did you
Kickstarter for it.
did you contribute to the Kickstarter?
I no, I did not. I think it's still going. I don't know if it's like I'm sure it's probably surpassed its goal.
I would think so. I've still seen it like pop up in ads and shit, so it
Yeah,
might
I
still
keep
be
seeing it
going.
too. So I
But no, I think that's cool. Like, having some sort of like accompaniment to the record.
yeah, when it's just like it's impressive because I think it's Daniel did it. I don't know if he did it
I
like
don't
by
know. It'd be
himself, but
if he did the programming, that'd be wild.
but I know he did do. I've seen him do Twitch streams where he does like video game like development stuff, like
Oh,
learning
that's
to like.
cool.
So I don't know if he did it like all himself or if he like just had his hands in it, but someone else
I was
did
gonna say
it. I'm not
I didn't
sure, but
realize that he did that stuff. I was just I just assumed he was the brainchild of like, you know, this is what I want, and then other people sort of did the work for him. That's cool. I didn't realize that he had any background in that, so that's cool.
yeah, and I think even like I think it's being published under like Tesseract Studios, I think is
Oh,
so it's
sweet.
like their own thing. I'm checking it here. Yeah, developer DM Tesseract. So that would be
Yeah,
yeah him, and
interesting.
then the publisher is 4D Music Limited. So I guess it's published by someone else, but it seems like he's the at least lead
That's cool.
developer on it.
That's really cool. I didn't realize
So
that.
so it's like just impressive that you get an album of this caliber, and then he has all his side projects, and also he's developing a video game. And like
Yeah,
I mean I haven't heard any, like I don't know anyone who's played the game, but just the fact that it's a game, and then you also get this like top tier prog metal album out of it too is like,
yeah,
man, where are you finding this time, man?
yeah, for sure. And if you want to hear us take a deeper dive, not only on this record but their entire discography, we do have an episode, Artist Spotlight Tesseract. We take a dive into all their music, sort of the progression of the band and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm super happy with this list.
Yeah, it's nice when it works out that like our weighted average still results in a list that we're both happy with, and neither of us are like, oh, this sucks. Why?
Yeah, I definitely like, I'm glad neither of us say yeah this sucks. I mean, there's a couple like I would bump Haken up probably a little bit, but like other than that, I'm pretty content. Uh, but I mean, even so, like that Earthside record's so good. That Invent Animate record's so good. That Aviations record is amazing.
I think for
Uh,
me, it was like that middle part of our top 10 was like
it could go
the
either way.
harder part for
Yeah,
me to like kind of slim it down because I felt like pretty solid with my top three. And then like after that, I was like, these albums are all like really good quality. Like I don't know where to put these. So honestly, like if you ask me next week, my order might change,
yeah,
but I feel pretty good about the way our list came out from our weighting
yeah.
averaging.
So just to recap: number 10, Currents, The Death We Seek. Number 9, Humanity's Breath, Ashen. Number 8, Haken, Fauna. 7, Invent Animate's Heavener record. 6, Earthside, Let the Truth Speak. 5, Aviation's Luminaria. 4, Zenith Passage, Datalicium. 3, Unprocessed and Everything in Between. 2, Sleep Token, Take Me Back to Eden. And number 1, Album of the Year, Tesseract, War of Being. I
Whew, what
like
a
it.
list.
I like it.
Me too.
I like it. Honorable mention, Creed, whatever they drop. So yeah, I really like the way this turned out. I'd love to hear. I mean, we got some. We did post. We want to hear your album of the years, and we got a lot of Tesseract in that. We got a lot of Sleep Token in that. We had a couple people say Unearth. That record was pretty decent. It didn't crack our top 10, but it was a decent record.
So for me, it did. I mean, I don't know that it would have necessarily, but I actually didn't get a chance to listen to it. So I definitely, that's one that's
Yeah, check
on
it out for
to check
sure.
it
I
out.
mean,
Yeah.
I Unearth was one of my first concerts ever in this genre. Or not. I mean, they're not progressive, but just in metal in general. I went and saw Unearth with Darkest Hour.
Yeah. And that was,
You were at that show, right?
yeah, it was Suicide Silence too
Yep.
and ABR.
Yeah, August Burns Red. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good show. Um, so definitely have a Zombie Autopilot. That song's so good.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, definitely have to check that out. But yeah, I think heavily Tesseract and Sleep Token were like 1, 2. I think we got most people said Tesseract. So I think a lot of people listen to this probably agree with at least our number one. But you know, if something that you think was your album of the year didn't crack our top 10 or even make our honorable mentions, we'd love to hear, you know, what we missed. Because it's hard to keep up. It's hard to keep up. I mean, like you said, we had like 45 albums, and there's definitely more than that that we listened to, and definitely more than that that probably we didn't listen to. So there's just so much music this year that it's tough.
There's even albums that I listened to, and then I just forgot to put them on my list, and then they kind of were popping into my head of like, oh crap, I need to add that one on there. So it's very possible that I even listened to the album and then just forgot to put it on there.
Yeah. So. Yeah, let us know what you think. Let us know what we missed. Let us know how off we were. Tell us how much you hate Sleep Token. You know, just let us know how you feel about this.
Yeah, I mean, we like the communication. Even if you disagree with us, that's fine. We enjoy chatting about the music. You know, that's why we do the podcast. So
yeah,
feel free to chime in and tell us what we missed, what you liked about our list, what you didn't.
Yeah, you know, we do the podcast to just bullshit about music with each other and just sort of, you know, broadcast that out to the ether. But we also do it to sort of interact with you guys and also learn, you know, learn things, discover new music, whatever it may be. So definitely tell us what we missed, what we messed up. And yeah, I mean, overall, it's been a solid year for music, solid year for us. Thanks to everybody who's continued to support us. I'm sure we'll have some sort of like year wrap, whatever type thing, maybe in early next year, just to sort of recap, you know, when the dust settles.
Yeah.
To talk more about, you know, our year and what we are going to try to accomplish in 2024. But, you know, this is likely our last episode of 2023. So we just want to say thanks to everybody who's been listening. And
yeah, we appreciate all the support and everything. It means a lot.
Yeah. It's been great. I mean, yeah, neither of us expected this to go as far or as long as it has, and it's really cool that it has. And you know, we feel like we've built a pretty cool community of listeners and supporters, and we hope to be able to sort of bring more, you know, bring more to the table coming up in 2024, and maybe branch out a little bit. Who knows what we'll do? I mean, I feel like the band interview stuff that we've done this year has been pretty cool. That definitely went way better than I expected to. So,
Yeah.
So, you know, hopefully more of that.
I felt like we were quickly in over our heads. But yeah, I think they went well, and I mean I very much enjoyed it. So but I was like, wow, I can't believe people like want to talk with us.
Yeah. So, you know, we're gonna try to keep that momentum moving into next year. And yeah, thank you guys so much again. We really appreciate you all. And here's to 2024 going just as good as 2023. We'll catch you in the new year.
Yeah, thanks everyone.